Słuchacie podcastu Efekt Synergii w biznesie, tworzonego przez Pawła Pachowicza i Adriana Micka.
Rozmowy o maksymalizowaniu Twojego biznesowego potencjału poprzez dostęp do praktycznej wiedzy i społeczności ekspertów branżowych.
Okay, so let's do it.
Let's do it.
I'm extremely excited to be talking to my co-host Adrian, and we have a super special guest today, Przemek, which is probably difficult to pronounce, but we're gonna go with Simon, right?
Yeah, that's a good option.
Okay. The idea for today is to talk about digitalization and why there's so much pressure on it, and how to deal with this situation, how to deal with the demand, and what would be the most reasonable approach to implementing digitization within your company.
Yeah, I think that would be good. I think we would also benefit from maybe talking for maybe a minute about what this concept here is, what this podcast here is, because for the English-speaking people, this can be a new video.
I'm sure we are already famous, outside of Poland. But if not, let's do it.
Just in case.
Yeah. So basically, what we have here now is a new podcast called Business Couch, and me, Adrian or Adrian, however you would like to pronounce it, and Paul. We are the hosts of this podcast. And we will be focusing on business issues in two languages, basically English and Polish as well. And we will be talking about a lot of concepts from the basis of business to maybe something more, I don't know, more easy to digest, maybe like communication in business and stuff like that.
Sure.
And today we have Simon with us, and we have the issue of digitization. So, Paul,
I think we can also focus maybe on more than two languages, because we can also focus on Java and PHP. So,
yes.
But this one will be held in English.
Yes.
So
but not in 0-1 binary code.
Yes. So like you already noticed, this is probably dedicated for people that are close to providing IT services. As this is what actually we have in common, which is the understanding of the IT industry. Mm-hmm. And just because I have a business relationship with Simon, I think I need to introduce him a little bit. You will get to know him during this podcast, but I feel that it needs a little clarification. Why is he even here? So he is here as he is considered an expert, I have to say, in the IT industry. This is a very general statement, but what I meant by that is that he had business relationship, and he's having business relationships with many IT companies, and that helps him to understand the present state of the IT industry, but also in the process of consulting them, he gained knowledge about the quality that they provide, and we could probably say a lot more about Simon, and as he is a very interesting guy. But I think we should tackle this topic for today. And if there's anything else, Simon, that I would like to add at this point, please do.
Yeah, I think you got the main point. Just to maybe add on a little bit. I've been in business for about 20 years now, and yes, I started when I was 3, and
nice.
And throughout that time, I was really close to IT or technology. So actually, my first IT firm, kind of IT, was in 2002 already. And I've seen it all. From all different sides. So I'm quite fortunate to be able to talk about different ups and downs in this business, and the way how it evolved to the current state. So yeah,
Beautiful. How about we start with, how do you understand digitalization? What do you understand when somebody calls you or asks you about digitalization? What is it actually?
Yeah, well, of course, there's different ways how you can look at this and how you can define this. Some people think about digitization, as a sci-fi movie where, you have those robots.
For some people, it is a sci-fi movie.
Yeah, because it is, right? So you have those robots that take over the world and they actually do everything for us. And maybe it's in the movies, it's easier to understand because the robots have a human form. In reality, digitization has no form. So that's probably the hardest thing here. But the main idea is just to make business and to make life easier, right? So way back in the day, we probably wouldn't think about having a coffee machine that makes coffee at a certain time, or we wouldn't have Alexa or Google Home where we tell Google, hey, can you add this to my shopping list? Or can you buy me these and these groceries? And they buy it. Of course, this is a B2C digitization. But of course, the same thing can happen within a company. And a lot of processes, a lot of actions can be or should be replaced by software, by robots, by automation. But now the big question is, how, right? Or which ones should be the first?
Yeah, this is. I wish I could add something to it, but you got it. So you just said that it's important that we do it because it will optimize a lot of things. It will help people maybe focus on some other non-repeatable tasks, maybe creative tasks. But also, if you could elaborate on why there's so much pressure, putting on that particular use of technology, right? Because there's different cases that technology helps us to resolve, but why there's so much pressure around digitalization and also. I've noticed that there's a lot of people not really understanding what digitalization is, but also focusing on digitalization without understanding what it is. So I don't know. That was a pretty long question, but
well, again, there's many ways how you can approach this, and just from my experience, from what I saw, of course, this is not a new thing. People have been digitizing way back. Right, but a lot of it is, we could call it peer pressure. Right? Why? Because my neighbor is already digitizing, so maybe I should think about it. Right, so that's the first.
And I think it works for B2C, but also B2B. Ooh. Companies are looking at each other and thinking, the other company.
That's what I meant by peer pressure. So it's between corporations. So when I see that my biggest competitor is investing a lot in IT, I know they're up to something, right? And the reason why they have lower costs, the reason why they can accelerate in a certain department, probably comes from digitization, from using IT or technology wiser. But now the big question is how to do it, wiser, smarter. Just because beforehand, if let's say we go back, 8 years, 5 years even, how digitization worked at that time, basically, corporations, they had their R&D departments, which were super expensive. There was a lot of engineers, super smart, but really well paid. And, they've been testing this and that, and it was working. And sometimes those ideas, those product came out of R&D, then it went into testing in a certain department. Then maybe they scale it to 1 or 2 countries. And after 2-3 years, it went global. So it was super long. It was super expensive. And of course, most of the time they tried to get the ROI, but majority, they didn't, right? It was basically testing, right? So that's why they didn't want to have a push. But when a big change came to the market, meaning the pandemic, the rules changed. Why? Because you weren't able to have extra people in your office. You actually weren't able to have people in your office. So you had to communicate somehow. You had to be better with management. You had to be better with coordination or just, working together as a team. And you needed tools for that. And that's why, the peer pressure or just the market pressure created even more push for digitizing.
Right.
I think I would like to add something because, first of all, you've said about corporations that corporations are looking at each other. Obviously they are, but every company, I think, is looking at someone at some point. And from my experience also working with some smaller clients as well, they are also looking at other companies, right? They're direct competitors. So even when it comes to the IT or digitization space, they just look and they see, oh, they did that, or we heard from someone that they did this thing and we don't have it. So let's also do it. And it's not always obviously planned there's no like ROI projection, okay, how it will impact our business. We just do it because they did it, right? But that's number one thing. And the number two, just maybe adding something more to what you said, Simon, is I've recently finished a book called Exponential Organizations. This was the title, don't remember the author, but this was the title of the book. And the book gave very tactile examples of companies who scaled beyond belief just on digitization. So basically the main premise of the book was, okay, if you want to scale, go digital, right? Go digital with the product, or go digital with the processes that govern whatever you do. And for example, one just to finish my point, one example, apart from things like Instagram, Twitter, and we all know that, but one example was Walmart, right? Because people see Walmart and what do they see? Big retail spaces, incredible logistic network. That's obvious, right? So people at first glance, they see the big stores. When they look a little bit deeper, they see the logistical network that they have. But if you look even deeper, you will see why it works. It works because of the algorithms. It works because of digitization. Walmart actually outsourced creating the algorithms that govern the whole logistical network that they have. And because of that, when people from, what are the other ones? The Target and Costco, right? When they were scoffing at Walmart, well, what is this? It's just a small store. They will never beat us, right? Walmart is now bigger,
the largest,
number one,
bigger
chain
than
store in the US. Yeah.
because they were able to, because of digitization, they were able to go to the first spot without even looking at the other competitors, and they were just grasping at what is happening. Why are they so big?
Yeah, and again, I think what you're saying, this creates this other part of this pressure on digitization. Why? Because if we just say, hey, let's digitize, some people think about, let's just put a piece of software here. Maybe, there's this arm that puts the product somewhere else. But the thing is that when you manage personnel, manage people, you ask questions, you verify them with your relations. There's of course a lot of emotions involved, and it takes time to even verify who's efficient or not. When you look at software, when you look at robots, you have data. Numbers don't lie. Why Walmart grew so much and why it works so well with logistics? Because by automating this, they do have data. And I'm guessing they're using that data wise. Right, so they're doing, AI algorithms. They're doing machine learning. They're probably doing big data analysis,
business intelligence.
And they learn from that, and then they create new algorithms. They optimize that. And again, look at Amazon. They're doing the same, right? So there's a point where you need to start. But usually when you're just starting, so if you're a digital transformation director, if you're a person that is supposed to change something in your company. Usually you're super excited until you start the research. You say, oh yeah, I want to do something with this process. I want to do something with, with this business unit. And boom, that's the moment you hit the wall.
Yeah, but sometimes they it's a very difficult job because sometimes they don't even know where to start. So they don't even know the process that needs to be optimized. And maybe we should, talk a little bit about that. What are the options there? Like let's say that I'm a digital transformation manager and I have this pressure, from the C-level people in my company to digitize. But nobody really knows how to do it. Plus nobody really understands the technology enough to actually do it. Plus, how do you calculate ROI, based on that on that process? So if I'm the digital transformation manager, how would you, what are my options at this time? And how can I make sure that I'm making the right decision?
Or maybe we can also say something more about what this digitization really could mean for the company, because digitization is also a nice buzzword, right? Because it's, let's digitize. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Right? It's somewhere in a report, in like a 70-page report somewhere in the company, in the vision or in the mission or in
or the 700-page report created by the Big Four.
Yeah, probably. And everyone is looking at a stakeholder meeting and they are saying, digitization is good. Yeah, we're digitizing. We will digitize. It's a good concept. Yeah, we will do it. So maybe putting it in some sort of a perspective. We've given a couple of examples, but maybe what does it really mean for the company?
So from my experience, because I've been working with different types of enterprises. I worked a lot with Deutsche Telekom, T-Mobile, the global T-Mobile team. I've been working with Cisco, with Intel. I've been working with different banks as well. So one conversation I remember with a digital transformation director from one of the biggest banks in Europe. The guy was saying that his job is actually to go and meet every single business unit head, have a conversation about what they're doing, what works, what doesn't work in their unit, and is there anything that they would like to improve. But the thing is that a lot of times he needs to bring ideas, even though he doesn't know how the business unit runs, right? So that's the challenge, is the chicken and egg problem, right? So that's the first thing, because of course the business unit head, sometimes he has experience, sometimes he has an overview, and sometimes he doesn't, right? So that's already the problem. And then the digital transformation director, he's the link between the board of directors, maybe the investors, and that business unit. And what he has to do is he has to come to different places and say, hey, let's digitize, pick a project, and then navigate it or orchestrate the whole process. So he picks like 3 or 4 projects. Then he needs to link this with the IT department. He needs to link this maybe with like a consulting firm, with some architects, plan it out, build it, and then come back to the board of directors and say, hey, we did it. We digitized, and we're waiting for the ROI, right? So that that's the big problem, and assuming that the process went well, that he found the IT experts, that he found the architects, that they knew what was going on, and the initial problem that they choose to fix was good. That was the right one, and I think this is also a big challenge, that they're facing. Which direction should I go, and who's going to lead me in this direction? Because, it's not like this digital transformation director does the same process every single week. No, that's his job. He needs to find new processes to digitize. So normally he needs to be the Harry Potter of the company. He needs to magically create new ideas, new processes to go, instead of the old ones.
So nothing is really that perfect in reality is what you're saying.
Exactly. And of course, some companies have some sort of a solution for this. So, for example, Deutsche Telekom, T-Mobile, what they did is already a couple of years back, they opened their own internal accelerator or incubator, where what they did is they, instead of building their own technology, instead of doing the R&D, which is super expensive and super time consuming, they started finding startups or finding companies that already had a proven prototype or a proven business model, on some scale. And they, instead of just investing in them or incorporating them right away to the company, they started running pilot projects. So they said, hey, we don't want to give you money because, you might just go through the money and burn it within a year. And, you're going to build your product a little bit bigger, but, it's not going to prove anything. And we need results. So what they started doing is they started verifying the approach. So they took their experience, they took whatever that startup, that company had. And sometimes I'm saying startup, but sometimes it was companies that were already 20 years on the market, right? So it's been experienced professionals, and they've done projects just to verify that this process, this idea can be digitized well. And if it worked, of course, then they scaled it, then they invested, then they bought, the solution, and they scaled it internally or even externally with their clients, right? So this is probably the biggest challenge right now, which problem to choose. And, of course, this you can probably manage, but later, how to address this problem, how to digitize. Should I, Paul started with this. Should I go with Java? Should I go with PHP? Should I do an app, or should I create some sort of a robot? It's hard to say because you've never done it, right? So maybe that's the question.
Yeah, I'd like to ask the same question again. What are the options?
Yeah. So
what options do I have?
Okay. So if you're this digital transformation director, right? Probably the easiest, well, not the easiest, the most common option is just find a well-known consulting firm, one of the big four, or some of the top brands. Invite them to your office, ask them to do an analysis of what you're doing, or talk with the business units, verify the problem or find the problem, and then build solutions, build software, build automation. But of course, this is not cheap. Of course, this takes time. And of course, this is not always perfect, right? There's situations when the big four comes in, they do, a nice report for a couple $1 million. And then they say, yeah, to be honest, you're fine. You're good. Right? And you don't want to hear that when you go to a doctor, and, you paid a lot for the doctor, and he's like, looking at you, you're fine. You'll live. Right. But, here's the check. Right. So that's kind of the problem. Or even if they, build something great, it's not cheap, because, there's a reason that they're, so big and so known.
Yeah, but I also see a little problem here. Why those companies that are in need of digitalization, why they go for the big four or the most expensive brands? I have an idea why, and I want to discuss that.
Yeah.
So that was a question that I'm gonna answer. But then,
that was a question from myself.
But then I need your comment on that. Isn't it that the big four and all the very well known brands, the leading brands, whenever you sign a contract with them, whenever you deal with them, I think when you're buying their services, that means that you're buying security, kind of. It's difficult to make the decision, to choose the right partner and keep it safe. And if you're dealing with the big four or maybe some other big brands, it's like, okay, if they fail, that means that everybody else would fail. Is that correct?
Well, I wouldn't say it's correct, but that's true. It's true on the market. That's the true approach or feeling that people have. But it's the same thing. Like, if I were to find an analogy, let's say, you've been riding a bike all your life.
Right? I have, actually, yes.
Yes. And you love your bike. It's great. But, you have an injury on your foot. You cannot ride your bike anymore. All right. And, or maybe, you change your job and you have to drive not 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers. You have to drive 100 kilometers every day. You need to buy a car. And of course, let's assume you have a driver's license that you passed 30 years ago. And right now, or
I do
25,
actually.
25. So normally, what would you do? You would either call some friends that it would help you pick up a car, or let's say you have no friends, right? And don't say I do.
Again, I do have friends.
But let's say you have no friends that have cars because all of your friends are, biking.
Cyclists.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would you do? You would literally look up the first car dealer or the biggest car dealer.
The well-known, right?
The well-known.
well-known,
Why?
yeah.
Because of the branding. And again, you go to a Mercedes car dealership, if the car doesn't work well, you say, hey, it was the best one. It was the biggest car dealer building in our city.
Because they spend the most money on marketing.
Yeah.
Well,
and
most likely in the heads of other people, size equals trustworthiness.
Yeah, and it's true. And of course, I don't want to say that Mercedes cars are bad, right? Or the
don't.
same, I don't want to say that Deloitte or, KPMG or Big Four, other consulting firms, their services, they're not bad. But the thing is that a lot of times, there's other options as well, right? So if I was to choose a car, maybe sometimes I don't have the budget to buy a Mercedes, right? Maybe sometimes I have to go off-road. And then if I buy the first Mercedes, or if I even buy an SUV, maybe it's not the off-road I need, right? And, then of course there's more steps to it. And maybe for my type of business, let's say I need to do some deliveries, or I have kids and the car is going to be messy all the time. Maybe I can invest with, buy a cheaper car, or I can buy something electric, right? So there's always other options, but you would need someone to guide you. Right, like a consultant or someone who, like a friend who would say, "Hey, I've been driving different cars. Tell me what you need," or let's rent the car for a month, and let's just take that road, and you tell me if you like it. You tell me if that's a good option, and then let's think about how would you want to approach it. We want to buy it. Would you want to lease a car? Would you want to rent it every single time, or would you want an Uber drive every single time?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we covered the most famous and well-known brands. What are the other options?
Well, of course, they're the long-term options, just like, for example, T-Mobile did. Creating your own startup scouting unit, which of course a lot of corporations do that, right? And I started working with them in 2014 when they started in Poland, and they've been already active in Germany for like 2 years with this. So it's not new, but of course it's super long term and it doesn't cover all your problems. But also there's other ways, just literally going straight to the car mechanic. So there are a lot of people that
we're gonna have to translate that analogy. I understand it, but we don't want people to be going to their mechanics for digitalization services.
Yeah.
So we have to kind of clarify it.
Yeah. So what I mean by this is, personally, I've been working with IT companies all over Europe and US, but mainly in Central Europe, Central and Eastern Europe, for the last 12, 13 years. And I've seen it from the kitchen side, right? So a lot of those companies, individual service providers, or sometimes share services that have their offices here in Poland and Romania and Slovakia, Estonia, they're using the local guys, the local experts to do the work. For example, for digitizing a U.S. process or a British company process. So what I've been finding is that a lot of those companies, let's forget about the shared services, right? Because this is just another office of a company, and they're just hired the local talent. But there are a lot of companies that are outsourcing their work, or that are hiring different service providers to deliver services to their clients, right? So I can be a consulting for, let's say, even big four. obviously they don't have all the service providers in their office in US, in their office in UK, in their office in France. They're using other assets, or
vendors,
other vendors.
Right? Yeah.
But obviously those people cannot say, hey, I'm working for this
Yeah,
big
I
guy.
actually, this is really interesting because I was in touch with this UK-based consulting firm, and they said that they are not really responsible for the delivery of the IT project, and that means that this process is kind of disconnected from the delivery. So they do consulting.
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, I don't want to say that they don't know what they're doing, but these two processes are disconnected, and they are creating and designing this digitalization process, and they do not involve the people that will actually implement it. And I think this is not great.
Well, this is the same challenge as talking about, let's say, consulting firms. They have the same challenge as regular companies. There's not enough talent on the market. Like now, if you want to hire a babysitter, it's really hard. If you want to hire a plumber, it's very hard. If you want to hire an IT guy, it's almost impossible.
Yeah, and also it's impossible to verify if he's good or not.
Exactly. So what a lot of companies are doing, and it's again, it takes a lot of time. They're hiring junior guys, they're training them, and then they're working, making them ready, but it takes 2-3 years sometimes, and a lot of bugs, a lot of problems, and really high costs to make this efficient, right? And the big challenge is that there are connections to, those, let's call them domain experts, right? So if, let's say you're a big bank, there are probably a lot of people across Poland, again, Romania, Estonia.
And companies, people and companies.
And companies that worked for Deutsche Bank, that worked for ING, and they've built a process which was navigated by, the big four, or was navigated by great minds in that bank, but they cannot talk about it because they have an NDA, right? Or maybe they don't have the marketing power because they're tech guys. They're not there for the marketing. They're there for hardcore coding, right? And this is the kind of the idea that I wanted to share, that you can actually connect the dots, or you can build bridges directly to the talent, or directly to the domain expertise that you're currently looking for within your company.
Would you say it's a shortcut for achieving great results and maybe not breaking the bank?
Yeah. Because again, looking at what Deutsche Telekom was doing, they've been doing this with startups that already had some ideas, that already had traction. And, let's be fair, you're not going to find a startup for every single process in your company, but you're going to find a company that did a process for your competitor, or were involved in a similar process somewhere in the market, right? It's just a matter of finding it, right? And of course, I'm not saying this is super easy, but there are people that have seen the kitchen, and they went over, and of course I'm talking about myself.
That's the point of having you here, but also describing the situation. It seems that there's only benefits to this approach. Are there any downsides of that approach?
Yeah, the downside is
maybe there is none.
No, there is one. Well, you have to talk with a person like me, and my calendar is already full.
That's actually really pleasant.
The main challenge is that you need to understand at least a bit on what you need to do on your business side, right? Like which process do you want to implement, or what type of solution are you looking for? But then it's actually, there is a shortcut, because you don't have to go through the big companies. You don't have to scout on your own, right? Because if you never build a process for, let's say opening a bank account through the mobile app, it's not like you're gonna just type in Google opening. Maybe you can.
And you will probably.
And there could be companies, right? Or it could be like a closed box solutions, but of course, there are people that were working on this, because you cannot just do a copy paste, right? There's always different processes, but you can copy, educate yourself, your team, the vendor from what experience they already have. You can take your challenges and the goals, put it together, and then you can accelerate the time of implementation. Why? Because they probably used some SDKs, they used some shortcuts in that process. Maybe they already went to like 3 or 4 approaches on fixing a problem.
They messed up already,
messed up.
so they don't have to mess up your project.
Exactly. So they can do it, just messing one time or not 5 times, right? So this is the thing, and this is something that I just realized when it's been like year 10 or year 12 working as a consultant, that a lot of those vendors, a lot of those service companies, they approach business as, hey, we're great in Python. We're the best in mobile apps. No one cares, right? It's just like if a car dealer would be advertising, we're great at, making you go from point A to
cars.
B. Yeah, our cars have wheels. And an engine. Well, okay, maybe sometimes if it doesn't have an engine because it's electric, then it could be different. But this is the thing,
engine.
right? So a lot of companies cannot, or they don't know how to even advertise by a process, by boxed expertise. I don't want to say boxed solution, but a boxed expertise. So this is a new trend, because I'm not the only person that does this.
Oh, you're not?
No,
Okay.
I know 2
so
other
there
people.
are other people like you.
There are 2 other people, at least in Europe, and I think maybe 1 person in US.
Okay.
But but there are already people that are making these links. Because it's just smarter, and the big upside of this is that because of this great pressure, because of this pressure on results and pressure on implementing, you want to accelerate the process. You want to make it faster. And again, it's just like with the Big Four. If it doesn't work perfect, you might say, hey, but actually it's guys that already done it. So maybe we should iterate one more time, because now we're building something even bigger, even better, right? So, yeah.
So, okay. So I do need your help. Not me. Let's say that I am a digital transformation manager, and I do need your help. What's the value, for me if I, because I do have to make this decision. I don't know what to digitize. I don't know who can I trust, and I usually don't have like all the pieces that I can put together and make a rational decision. So let's say I'm the guy. How that process would look like? If I decide I can go with the Big Four, it might be a little pricey. They might not have the delivery that will know about the consulting process.
They might. But the funny thing is that's the same people. They're, let's be honest. They're hiring the same people. In Central Europe, they're hiring the same guys. Sometimes in India, right? It's just a different brand.
That sounds like a top secret information that you're revealing right now. No?
But I'm not revealing the links, right? So,
okay.
I cannot say who that is. But I can bring them to the table.
So what you're saying at the end of the day, probably the companies that can help with digitalization, they are the companies that are actually helping the Big Four and other leading brands,
but,
right?
Yeah, but the difference is that usually you're paying 3, 4, 5 times more because there's a sticker, and you have
try
to
10 times more.
Yeah,
just
okay.
Kidding. Just kidding.
Let me try. Yes, but the normal approach is or would be that. Why a lot of those companies are not going directly to the vendors? What the vendors are tech guys.
Yeah.
So if you're lucky enough to find a tech guy or a company that already did this type of process, you can talk with them about the business problem. You can
about the case study.
About the case study, about the process, about the business case. But majority of companies, like if you even want to run the research, you're going to ask them, so what did you do? oh, we did 5 times PHP, 8 times Java, and 27 times Python, and we did a little bit of React. And for you as a digital transformation director, as innovation director, it doesn't say much, right? This is already, the implementation plan. Like if you're a CTO and you already have it planned out, yeah, okay, that's good. And you're probably already handling this. But if you're, already, or if you're just building up the plan, that's not going to help you with anything. So this is where I love to come in. So I love to sit down and start asking, okay, so what is the process? What is the challenge? What's been going on in the last 2, 3, 4 years? What data do you have? What data are you looking for? What results are you looking for? Many times we're getting business architects involved. Why? Because those guys, they've been designing solutions. They've been designing different flow charts or, different workflows with other companies. So they can give you feedback at the business level, right? So this is the first stage. Let's just understand what's going on and what do we want to achieve. And is it even possible? Because a lot of times you think, oh, I need to change this and this. But in reality, even if you did it, it wouldn't make sense, or it would cost you more and it wouldn't bring any results. Like you would have zero ROI or zero return. So this is the first step. And then once we have the concept, then we actually go to a company that already done a similar approach. So, looking at the list of vendors I've been working with, or my network that have been working with those guys, there's a really big chance that they've done almost the same project, or a big chunk of it. So we can literally go and sit down with them and say, hey guys, have you done something like this? Oh, how was it? What would be your approach? And if you talk to someone that already went through the process, built something similar, a lot of times they even have licenses. A lot of companies, they don't give away the software, they just license it. So they might say, 80% of this, we have a license. So, it's just a little change here, a little change there, and, the core is ready. That's it, right? So it's cheaper, it's faster. But of course, the first step by, with understanding the problem, visualizing the challenges and the goals is the most important. And then the link. And this is, something that we try to build. Like we try to be the link, and we try to understand the market. That's why we're going to all those conferences. We're, doing analysis of a lot of portfolios of the vendors, so we can understand what they worked for, what processes did they cover, and how we can link this with other companies, just so it's easier for them.
Okay. So I have 2 questions.
Go for
it. So maybe I will ask with a, maybe I will ask or start with the easier one. If I'm the CEO or if I'm the business owner, right? And I've been hearing about this digitalization, and my competitor has introduced a mobile app, or he has introduced some kind of a backend system that I know about because someone told me, like behind the closed doors and stuff like that. How do I know that it's time for me to maybe hire you or someone similar to you to help me like push things forward?
May I please answer this question?
Sure, my guest.
No, I'm just gonna start and then you can take over. You are already late.
Oh, that's a good answer.
If you're just looking now, if you heard your competitors
it's too late.
Have it, and you hear it already, that they're using this, you've been too long on vacation, and a year or two maybe.
But is it really too late when it comes to digitalization? Is there, like, because there's this famous saying that the best time to do it is today, like the best time to do it was yesterday. The next best time is today, right? So is there
then
really,
you're not late. Then you're good.
Yeah. So is there really any, like, really being late to the party to the point like, okay, I think we're done. There's no point.
No, you shouldn't close the door, but obviously, like, you shouldn't sit there and wait. right? Because that's what a lot of companies have been doing.
Yeah.
And innovating, and well, now innovation a lot in big chunk is digitizing.
Yeah.
But if you look, for example, at Kodak, a brand which was known, right? They created the digital camera.
Yeah.
But they just focused on the analog cameras.
Film. Yeah.
And they were just waiting, right? They were even, I think they were saying like, yeah, it's gonna be fine. Like, it's just a little bump on the road. But and people are gonna come back to analog. They did, but only the hipsters, right? and the rest went digital. And this was something that they invented.
Yes.
Right, but they didn't go further. And of course, this is not like a 100% digitization approach. But the situation now shows that everyone needs to be and is digitizing. It's not a question of should we do it. It's a question on how, because there are no experts free that you can just get from the market. You cannot just post, hey, I need 7 people to help me with this and this task, and they're just gonna,
unless they know you, then they can do it. They can just ask you, I need 7 people, and you might have those 7 people.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Yeah. But of course, it's not like you can just hire them directly.
Yeah.
And even if you could, like, I've heard these stories many times. People in US, in Boston or New York, recruiting or even relocating super experts in a certain area to US, training them, giving them houses, cars, jewelry, everything, just for them to relocate.
Jewelry.
Yeah. And they did. And what happened? Google or Facebook or Amazon knocked on those guys' door and said, hey, how about I give you 3 times more?
More jewelry.
Okay. And a coupon, for for a buffet, right? And a lot of those people say, why not? I just relocated to a new company. I have a contract. I cannot change this thing for like 6 months. But if you pay the penalties, and they're like, yeah, we're pay the penalties, and we're going to give you same amount, because that's why there's so much pressure, right? But of course, this is a marginal situation where on the other side, there's a lot of experts that don't want to relocate. They want to live in the in their house in the countryside. They want to have good time with their family, right? And with chill out with their friends. And of course, they can work with you, but they don't want to work internally right? They can do a project, and this is kind of the new approach, right? Just getting experts in certain topics, because hiring someone is very expensive.
Yeah.
Onboarding someone, really expensive. Training them, super expensive and takes a lot of time. And you don't have 100% certainty that they're not going to leave you in the process. Like I hear a lot of stories where recruiters now are facing this challenge that people don't even show up to the interview.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
So is it,
Because I also have another question.
I do have another question.
But maybe I will. Maybe I will leave them at the end, because this is a very custom question when it comes to this approach.
I was just thinking and kind of summarizing of what you were saying. And would it be okay to call what you do digitalization as a service? So you don't really have to, hire all those people, pay all the benefits. Consider the fact that, they might go somewhere else.
I would even go further. I would even call it domain expert as a service, right? Because
That's heavy.
You don't need to hire a plumber to live with you in your house.
Yeah.
That's not a great idea, I think.
To do the plumbing and fix your car and maybe wash the windows and maybe, clean up the bathroom. No, because he's a plumber. So if you need a plumber, you need someone from that specific topic. So that's probably the challenge. Of course, there are a lot of long-term projects or maintenance projects that you need to have. And, that's why you're hiring those other guys. But in terms of digital transformation, a lot of times you need to do a quick pilot. You need to do a POC. You need to do an MVP to verify this and then maybe scale it. Maybe then build an internal team. But if you wait with this for 6, 10, 20 months until you gather the experts, the team, to build this, they're going to be already, sitting and drinking coffee at Google, right? So sorry to say
Sorry,
that.
go.
This is the situation. And then, after Google, they're going to go somewhere else as well.
Sure. Okay, so
Now it's time.
my question. Okay, so I think that my question is quite specific, and but because Simon is in the hot seat, I think this is a good place to ask it. So let me give you an example and then ask the question.
Okay.
So I used to work for a company that was outsourcing a lot of services, and they were working for big corporations, right? And from what I noticed working in that company was that the digitization efforts were really fragmented. So, for example, the customer relationship was managed in one system. Procuring the hardware that we needed was done in a completely different system with different login credentials, with in a different technology and stuff like that. Writing notes about the calls with the clients was managed in a completely different system, apart from the customer relationship system.
Are you going
and
for
stuff like that.
integration?
Yeah. So my question would be...
I never heard of these situations.
Yeah.
Which company?
Yeah. So knowing that a lot of companies are siloed, right? There are
Almost all of them.
Yeah, almost all of them are siloed. These silos are not talking to each other, right? How can a company like yours or a person like you, a consultant like you, help the company during digitalization efforts to not make the mistake and be too fragmented?
Well, that's one of the aspects of the domain expertise of the companies that I work with. So there are actually companies that do help directly with integration, with data integration, with system integrations. So obviously, you're never going to have a situation where the whole corporation, which has thousands, tens of thousands of people, are working just on one big system. It would actually be even dangerous. But on the other side, you do need to integrate them somehow. Or even right now, let's say you do want to build a new app and you want to digitize a process, you are still using data from other tools, from other systems. So there are actually approaches to integrate that. And it's, again, the same approach. First, you need to verify what's the business case. What do you want to do? Why do you want to integrate this? Do you want to integrate this for efficiency of this software? Or do you need to integrate this because you just need data? And the data goes to another app, which you are building, or you actually don't even need an app. You just need to integrate, all the numbers and all the information, put it in one separate database that's going to go for business intelligence, that is going to be dedicated for machine learning, for BI, etc., or AI. So again, first you need to verify or specify the business case, and then you go to the tech guys that have done this for multiple corporations, that have done we work with one company that they call it real-time data integration. So there's actually solutions where you can integrate 20,000 different systems and have all the data in
That's
one
impossible.
place. It is possible.
Okay.
I've seen it. Okay. I've seen it once. I read a book about
You
it.
want to elaborate on that? Or?
Yeah. So
that's really interesting.
Again, this is, going into this Harry Potter approach where, sometimes you think, it would be so magical to, to have this and that all integrated. Well, it is possible. But if you take let's say, you have your car and you want to put, what is it? This thing that you put on the roof,
Like a rack with
the
something.
rack, yeah. Let's say you want to put a rack, but your car is from UK, the rack is from Japan. Then you have screws which are made in India. So you have a lot of different elements. And now you take the plumber that lives with you and say, hey, guy, integrate this. Of course, he's going to do this. It's not going to look nice. It's not going to work good. And probably you're going to lose the load. You're going to lose your luggage that you're going to take on the rack, right?
You might also lose the plumber.
You might lose
As
the plumber.
this is not where he's
Or the
good at.
plumber may leave on its own accord,
exactly,
right?
because and that's the big challenge. A lot of the developers, a lot of the experts, of course, there are people. They have passions. They have their own visions. So they want to develop in their own area, right? So a lot of them, they quit their jobs because they say, I wasn't hired for this. I don't like doing this. This doesn't make sense. You don't take a 20-year-old software and you don't put an app on top of this, and then you tell me it doesn't work properly because it should, right? So of course, the plumber. I'm not saying these people are bad experts. No, but the plumber shouldn't be working on everything, right? So if you do want to integrate, you actually take a mechanic who does car repairs or a body shop for the cars, so he can use the same rack, because you don't want to change the rack. You still need to have the same car. You cannot change it, right? Because if you're a big bank, you're not going to be changing 80% of your systems just to have one single process digitized, right? So there are solutions and there are people which actually are doing the connection. But then again, there are domain experts in this certain area, because one team would be doing the data integration, another team would be doing the new app, and another team would be doing the interface, right? Because there are experts in this. And that's, again, how now a lot of companies that are succeeding, that's how they approach this, right? And again, that's how the big four, the big consulting firms, that's how they approach this. That's why they don't hire all those people internally. They wouldn't be even able to have all of them, because you cannot. You don't know when do you need the plumber, when do you need another expert. So it's the same here. They're just hiring service companies that have that expertise, and that's what I do as well.
That's a nice segue, I think. Are we going towards some sort of a summary?
I believe so.
Yeah,
but
I believe that would be good. But maybe you have some questions as well.
No, I think the questions that will appear in the comments, maybe. I think that
would be good.
Direct questions for
we
Simon.
Encourage comments. Yes.
Yeah, direct questions for Simon, because I work with companies that might require your help. So I know how it looks on the other side, and I believe there's a lot of people that would benefit from just having a quick call with you, right? Because they are in the process of figuring out how to approach this digitization. They have no idea how to do it. Maybe they don't have a huge budget to do that, and just a conversation with you, I believe would just help them make that decision a little better.
Yeah, but
right?
just also the knowledge, just the pure knowledge that
Just
there
the
is
industry
an
knowledge,
option.
like you mentioned.
There is an option of going directly, let's say, as they used to say, directly to the vendor, right?
Yeah.
But also not, right?
Yeah.
Because you are the guy that kind of stands in the middle and helps to choose the right vendor. So it's not like you don't really have to have that knowledge, to be able to verify if that company is better than the other one, because you can basically tell them that. Yeah. So I think this is the main benefit, that you have to make a decision, and then there's a challenge in front of you. How do you approach it? Are you actually capable of making that decision by yourself, or you need a person like you that can make it easier but also mitigate the risk, because if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know digitization very well, plus you don't know that specific vertical or segment that needs to be digitalized, how are you gonna make the decision?
Well, quite often it's not even this. It's not even that people don't know what they're doing. The question is, do they have time to do that? Right? Because if you're a digital transformation
I didn't mean to say that the digital transformation managers don't know what they're doing. I only meant that the times that we live in. You know, this is crazy pace of everything. So
exactly,
if you want to keep up with every single vertical, this is no possible.
Yeah, and literally sometimes just giving away the tasks to someone that already did it, right? It makes you feel more secure. It takes off the pressure, takes the pressure off you. And you know, that's what I've seen when I've been meeting with different executives. They said, I don't want to deal with this. I know I could if I had time, but I have life. I have a life and I need to deal with it. So, you know, I just need to delegate this to someone. But then I don't have anyone internally to do this. And that's why they were happy that I'd already did those links, I already did those connections. I think
that there are processes that even if I had, all the time in the world, I wouldn't make the proper decision, I believe, because I haven't made that decision before. I don't have, all the information. I really don't know how to make the decision. I can have all the time in the world and I still won't be able to make the right decision. So then that's the time when I just pick up the phone and call you.
Yeah, and say, hey, can I transfer the risk on you?
Okay.
So Simon, maybe could you share with our viewers and our listeners, like if you were to share one main point or one golden advice.
And this cannot be your phone number or your email address.
One golden advice to people who are dealing with digitalization or will be dealing with it. And if there was one advice you would leave them in a couple of sentences maximum, what would it be?
Don't try to reinvent the wheel.
Epic.
Right? And, it's not my quote. Like, I heard it somewhere. But, when you approach different topics in life internally, you always try to find people that already done this. If you have a child, you talk with people that already had children, ask them advice. If you're building a house, you talk with someone who built a house. If you're doing digitization, there are people who have done the same process. It's just the matter of finding them and verifying if this is really the case where they did the same process and the goals are the same.
Okay.
And then I will look, if I were those people, I would look in the mirror and I would ask myself if I'm capable of making the right decision. If I have all the facts, if I can
keeping
take up
all the
with
risk on me, right?
And if not, I don't want to say to call you because I think all the viewers and listeners they already know that. So we can skip
you
that
don't
part.
have to call me.
Oh yeah,
some people
email you.
Just email me.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Sure.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Love it.
Yeah, I'm very happy with what I have learned and possibly what our viewers learned.
If there are any questions, you can leave the comments, right?
Yeah, leave the comments below.
And then any questions, and maybe you can find Simon's email address or phone number in the comments as well. I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe. We will see.
Yeah, but in general, thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure, discussing this, and I hope,
there will be more.
There will be more.
Yeah,
definitely.
I hope there will be more, and we were able to open some doors and open some eyes for new approaches
and maybe digitize some processes.
Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly.
Got it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we will see each other in another episode.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Jeżeli zainteresowało Cię to, co usłyszałeś, zapraszamy Cię do naszej grupy na Facebooku pod nazwą Efekt Synergii w biznesie, gdzie spotkasz się z ekspertami branżowymi i pasjonatami rozwoju biznesu.